It's that time of the week. Welcome to another episode of Dallas Cowboys Overtime here on StarTelegram.com. He's Clarence E. Hill Jr., the man who knows everything about everything. I'm Mac Engel. Decided to switch it up. Clarence, before we get into the topics this week, we have a far more. Oh, look at that. Nice going, Candy. Candy Bolden, our fearless producer, making things all kinds of visually stimulating. Clarence, before we get into our topics this week, we have a far more pressing issue. Is the submarine that went to look for the Titanic is apparently lost. Now, this is a potentially tragic story that is not really that funny, but it does bring up to mind. You and I talked about this off camera, which is if you had that much money, what would you pay to do that is potentially this dangerous? I don't know if you followed this at all, people who are watching this. The boat isn't really approved by any formal federal regulation of any country. You have to sign like a 10,000 page waiver before you get on this boat that can only be opened from the outside. And if the Navy is somehow able to find this submarine, if it has actually gone down, and as opposed to just floating in the North Atlantic, which is kind of a big body of water, then they've got the trouble of actually raising the boat to rescue those people. So Clarence, let's just pretend for a moment you've got a whole bunch of money. They're like, hey, Clarence, you want to go for a ride up to outer space? Do you do it?
No. I've
You know,
already won. I've
money.
already won life. I got a bunch of money. I've won life. I've won in life.
Okay, so now they come here.
I go to Dubai. Okay, I'll go to Dubai. Okay, I'll do something like that. I'll go to the French Riviera. You know.
So this to get on this submarine,
I'll take a yacht and tour the French Riviera.
Okay, so to get on this submarine was a $250,000 ticket,
and you had to sign a waiver that acknowledges several times that you might die.
Yes,
it says explicitly in the waiver you could die.
I have. Have you signed a waiver for anything that that when you looked at it, you're like, oh my God, this is ridiculous?
No.
I went skydiving once. This was back in '96. I went skydiving once.
Not doing it.
It was great. But I remember the waiver was like 20 some pages, required umpteen signatures, one of which was I would agree to not sue, even if a judge said I could sue anyways, and overriding the document. And I still wouldn't sue. And if you had seen, I'll never forget, the guy that was a tandem jump, Clarence, and the guy that I was going to be attached to was hungover. That cost me about $200, not $250,000.
Not doing it.
$250,000. It's like a Taylor Swift concert.
I'm not going zip lining. I'm not jumping out of an airplane. I'm not doing it. I don't even like doing roller coasters. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, what is it like when you look back on that? Can you think of anything that you've done when you were younger, student of Texas, maybe out of college, when you were living in Kansas City, that required a signature or a waiver that you look back and you're like, man, what was I doing?
Nah, I'm sorry. I don't do those sort of things. I like life. I like my life. I like to enjoy my life. Is drinking too much part of that? I mean.
Yeah, that's a good question. Like,
is drinking in the river, drinking in Florida River in New Braunfels, is that something that's too dangerous?
I don't think that requires a waiver. I don't think you ever say when you go to the liquor store and you buy like a Crown, like whatever, you're like, I got to sign that. It's just a credit card receipt. That's all you got to put down there. Okay, let's go on to sports subjects as opposed to $250,000 tickets to go to the bottom of the ocean to see Titanic, which you can rent for like $5 on Watch the Movie and see Leo and Kate fall in love. And the horrible thing about that, you and I both know who've watched that movie, Kate Winslet totally screwed over Jack. What was his character? Yeah, Jack, Leonardo DiCaprio, when she said, yeah, there's no room on this lifeboard here. Get off. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, sorry. I know you saved my life, but you can't. There's not enough room here. Okay. We're on the dog days of summer. Outside, it's approximately 128 degrees. and it's only going to get worse. The other day, the air temperature and air quality was so bad it made me feel like I was in Houston. Clarence,
Yeah, I was at the Juneteenth walk yesterday, and, with Opal Lee in
how,
Fort Worth, and it was hot. My
how
daughter was like, "Did you pour water on your shirt?" I said, "No, baby, I sweat. I'm a sweater, okay? I sweat, and everything is coming out of me right now. It's hot, but yeah, the heat advisory for Texas, it's right now. It's crazy hot. I had a
did you have
friend
a
of mine.
chance to
I had
meet?
a friend of mine called me from Ohio yesterday. And he said, "Man, it's hot up here. It's 88 degrees." I'm saying, "What? What? Don't tell somebody from
Child,
Texas."
yeah, don't even
It was
come
last
around.
night. I was at a concert, and it felt like 109 at 9 o'clock. I do
Yeah,
a concert
it's
back to back.
bad. Like when I get up in the morning, sometimes I'll try to do like a little bit of yard work, just little things. And my cutoff now is about 8:15. Like if I'm not done by 8:15, I'm like, forget it. I
It's too
won't
hot.
do it. Did you get a chance to meet Opal Lee, by the way?
Yes, I've met her a few times. Yes,
How's she doing?
she walked 2.5 miles today, and she's talked. She is something else. But yeah,
That's an amazing
she's
woman.
all. She walked 2.5 miles in the heat and was talking on the mic for another 30 minutes afterwards.
Wow.
No, she's wonderful. She's great. The grandmother Juneteenth, who's raising money for a Juneteenth museum in Fort Worth. So that's what our Dog Days of Summer is all about. And the interesting thing is for us, we're trying to find something to do, find something to watch. Basketball's over, hockey's over. It's the dead time between football season. I mean, the end of basketball season and football season. And you know what we have to watch? Baseball.
We finally do have a good baseball team. We have two good baseball teams. TCU is in the College World Series. It'll play its third game of the World Series and second of the World Series against Oral Roberts. It's an elimination game. Whoever loses goes home. Whoever wins needs to beat Florida in 2 consecutive games to get the final series of the College World Series. But obviously, even the bigger story is the state of the Texas Rangers. Rangers are in first place, 17 games over 500. I can't believe that. Of all of the developments in this 2023 Major League Baseball season, along with the state of the Cincinnati Reds, maybe the Arizona Diamondbacks, certainly the Texas Rangers are the biggest surprise.
Oh, yeah, come
Jacob deGrom, their big stud offseason signee from the New York Mets, he only started 6 times this season. He's out at least until the end of the tail end of next season with Tommy John surgery. But all these other guys are performing at ridiculously high levels. Clarence, are you believing it, or do you foresee a Rangers collapse in our future?
The thing about it is, I think we need to appreciate the journey. Let's not worry about the future. Let's just appreciate now. The Rangers were 60-20. Okay, 40-20 after 60 games. That's their best record all time after 60 games. Not one team, not the Players team, not the world. Nobody was 40-20 after 60 games. We're seeing something we've never seen before with the Rangers team that we didn't expect to do anything. There are no household names here. The biggest name is Hurt. These are all young guys who are coming into their own. Obviously got a great manager, but this is something special to watch. And I got friends going to the stadium. Luckily some people went this weekend and the roof was closed on Saturday because of the extreme heat. Because we don't go watch the Rangers when it's hot. Unless we got a roof over our head. At least that was the excuse why we had to get out of the other stadium that was pretty brand new. But no, it is good to watch and watching them and certainly watching TCU. The problem with TCU and Oral Roberts is Oral Roberts has the best T-shirts out there.
Are those awesome?
Yes. You don't talk about the T-shirt?
I like Oral. Which one are you? I want to make sure we're on the same page because I've
seen one that says I like Oral.
Yes. Okay. You said it. Clarence E. Hill Jr. You can find him on
Oral
Twitter.
Roberts. You got it. Roberts.
I know.
Roberts is silent. Roberts is silent.
That's right. Clarence, this next question could fill up 3 hours of a vodcast, podcast, encyclopedias of debate. How much credit do you give the current state of the Texas Rangers to former GM and president John Daniels?
I mean, how many players on the team did he bring here? I mean, how many of these guys? I mean, just you add them up. Tell me how many players on this current team did he draft, acquire, farm? I mean, how many of these are homegrown? How much is homegrown talent did he put together?
Well, certainly. I mean, here's the challenge of it. So they brought in Chris Young a year ago, 2 years ago, to be the general manager, and then they went out and spent all this money. Now, John Daniels was above him, and this gets into the whole Nolan Ryan, John Daniels debate. That kind of this type of argument and debate. Well, who do you give credit to? Who gets it? Bottom line is this: John Daniels should get a decent amount of credit for the current state of this roster. And certainly his departure was needed. It really was. I listened to, I think it was John Kruk on ESPN, former Major League Baseball All-Star. He made a point, and along with another former player, I can't remember who it was, but their point was when you lose a game, the way the Rangers lost Game 6 of the 2011 World Series, where they were one strike away twice from winning the World Series, and you don't win, everybody's got to go. That as an organization, you never fully recover from that kind of loss until everybody's gone. And it's an extreme opinion, but they may have been right. If you go back and look at teams that sustain those kinds of just devastating defeats, nobody gets over it. You move on and you keep playing, you keep coaching, you keep general managing or whatever, but nobody really gets over it because it changes the way everybody sees you. If the Rangers get that strikeout or out against the Cardinals in Game 6, the way we see John Daniels and that whole thing completely changes.
Maybe they should have never fired Ron Washington. I mean, we can.
They didn't fire Ron Washington. Ron Washington quit.
No. What I'm saying is, we can second guess it all we want to. I mean, and
there's nothing to second guess. The guy just
it's a second guess after the fact. I mean, I know that when people get close and almost win, the natural mindset is we can run it back and we can get over the hump. We can take our lessons. We can learn from this and get over the hump. You don't tear it up when you get that close. It's easy to cheap second guess 10 years later say, well, they should have gotten rid of everybody. They can only get right back on track once everybody's gone. But that's just not human nature.
No, and you can't really get rid of 25 guys overnight.
No,
you can't.
Or the front office after you get that close, you're at the World Series.
But there is some validity to that argument. You're not going to do it. It's not plausible. You're not going to fire a guy after getting to the World Series or anything like that. You're just not.
It's almost like the Giannis statement about the journey. I mean, you got to appreciate the journey, and for the sad part is, for a Rangers team that never won nothing, never been really viable, never been a contender.
Been one of the most irrelevant franchises.
That was regardless of the devastation, that was salad days of Texas Rangers. That was the best we've ever seen them.
It was.
Okay.
I know,
so it's not like the Yankees. We got this devastation of how dare you, and you can't. I mean, that was the best we've ever seen the Rangers.
Yeah, and it is fun, honestly, to go to the park to talk about the Rangers, and they're relevant again. However they got here, however ugly it was, at least they're here now, and they're in first place, and it's no longer just people in Texas saying, wow, look how the Astros are great, or talking about garbage cans or anything like that. We now have two very good teams in the state again, and it's good to talk about the Rangers. Thank God. Okay, let's move on to our next topic. Clarence, we talk about the dog days of summer in the NFL, and when I covered the league, this was the scared days of the NFL, because right now, guys are at home, guys have time to themselves, they got money. Anytime this happens, we got 3 or 4 weeks between, basically, we got a month between today and the start of the first week of NFL training camps. Can the Cowboys and NFL players in general stay out of trouble before they get to camp?
Right. We don't want the John Morant situation, one Zion Williams situation. We don't want all this negativity. We don't want any of this, no Mariah Mills coming out, we don't want any of these tweet fests. You don't want that, and it's certainly
Zion Williams' ex-girlfriend. Like, what is she doing?
She's relentless, and she's extortion. It's all over the map.
It's sad. But, okay, so do you think? But it does seem to me. Hang on, let me phrase the question this way: it seems to me in the age of social media that compared to 15 years ago, before Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff existed, TikTok, gotcha phones, that NFL players, college players too, have improved dramatically about lowering their off-season and midweek stupidity bouts. It's not perfect. No one's batting 1,000. They never will. But it does seem to me that it's better than it's ever been.
No, I agree with that. And I was going to expound on that because I grew up I started covering the Cowboys in the 90s. I grew up years ago. But anyway, remember the Cowboys were the bad boys, okay?
Yep.
They were the trouble team. They were the bad boys in the NFL, all of this stuff. Starting with the Jason Garrett era and going through the Mike McCarthy era, there are no bad boys on the Cowboys, okay? You don't really, everybody has their incidences, and obviously, and I say that knock on wood, and we certainly had the boss man fat situation of a year ago, but by and large, this Cowboys team led by Dak Prescott, even, they don't really get in trouble like this. Certainly you had the Zeke Elliott issues, early in his career, but as far as jurisprudence, you really haven't had that with this Cowboys team, and it has improved a lot, from the Ray Rice and all the others, the Greg Hardys and all the other headlines. Certainly you don't see the preponderance of those situations as we have in the past. And I think that's a good news. That's a good step in the right direction for these kids. Because obviously they know if they get in trouble, they're not playing. It's not like, the olden days where they, would still play. They're going to be suspended. And I think they've learned their lesson. But now the issue is gambling and can you, when all these, as a reporter, certainly when things happen and all these teams, all these players across the league are getting in trouble for gambling, you're waiting for that Cowboy player with that headline, but it has not come across, which is
I think
to Mike McCarthy and these Cowboys, for not getting involved in that.
No, and that was one thing Jason Garrett, I thought handled really, really well, was setting expectations about it. And they drafted, for the most part, pretty good guys. I know, David Irving was a guy that was really talented, and he just couldn't quite seem to get out of his own way. In fact, I don't even think he recognized how smart he was. That he obviously went down some different roads that he shouldn't have gone down, but he was the outlier. I think if you look at most of these guys, J-Ron Kearse is a really good guy. Trayvon Diggs is a good guy. Tank Lawrence is a good guy. CeeDee Lamb's a really nice guy. Dak Prescott's terrific. And when your leadership group who makes the most money are behaving like that, then the rest usually tend to fall in line. I can't speak to other NFL franchises, but I don't think it's a coincidence that this Ja Morant situation is a bit of an outlier, but the reason it stands out so much is we just don't see it happen very much anymore. And I know the Raiders have had situations. The Henry Ruggs situation is beyond awful, but that really is an outlier. And I think this trouble window that existed for so long, like you mentioned, the White House days of the Cowboys, either they seem to be controlling it a lot better or they're just not doing it. Okay, we've got more to talk about here on Cowboys Overtime, but first, a word from our friends at Window Nation.
Window Nation, the star of window replacement and proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys, can help you fill the house this season with savings. Buy 2 windows, get 2 free, and make no payments and pay no interest until 2025. Fill your house for a customized authentic Dallas Cowboys jersey while supplies last. You could even help fill the Cowboys house and win tickets to a game. Visit windownation.com/Cowboys now for details. Call 866-95-NATION. Window Nation, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
All right. Thank you very much, Window Nation. I'm Mac Engel. I am an NBA lottery pick. Just didn't want to say what year. He's Mr. Clarence E. Hill Jr. Clarence. There is one tidy issue to bring up, and that is Dallas Cowboy contract situations for a couple of star players, namely Dak Prescott, who still is under contract, CeeDee Lamb, who is due to get a big contract, and Trayvon Diggs, the outside cornerback. All due for contract extensions. Cowboys, no team in the NFL, maybe in sports, likes to kick the can down the road on extensions more than the Cowboys. Jerry did it. Jerry Jones would sit there and say, I'm not going to do it till I have to. And his son, Stephen Jones, has certainly embraced that philosophy. Did they finally learn their lesson because of what happened with the Dak Prescott contract situation the last time? Or do you fully expect that this team will just keep kicking the can down the road and they will not give an extension until they have to, at which point they will have to overpay? If they had just done it a little bit sooner, they wouldn't have to bite on such a big number.
Well, the problem is that it's too late to get in early on a good deal. I mean, the numbers
for Dak or anybody.
For anybody. I mean, the cornerback numbers, receivers numbers getting $30 million a year. Okay, the numbers have exploded. There's no we sign him now, we're gonna get him at a deal. No, it's already through the roof. I think that just talking to Stephen Jones, it is not just these three. You got Tony Pollard, who's on the franchise tag. They got to July 17th. Signed him to a long-term deal to play the season on the tag. I fully expect him to play the season on the tag, and they make him, prove himself another year, and maybe tag him again and let him go like they do all other running backs.
Yeah.
And certainly Terrence Steele is another guy that they would like to get under contract. The promising right tackle. But Stephen Jones said they would like to get something done, but it takes two to tango. Okay, and it's easy to say that the Cowboys are waiting, but the players are waiting. They want to see what the number comes down. I mean, certainly you look at
the number's not coming down. You just said.
I mean, they want to see what other contract comes down the pike, and if that makes their market value going up. I mean, the players got to want to get deals done, and players are waiting. Just like it was smart. Well, the Cowboys made a mistake. It was smart for Dak to wait because that's when the numbers exploded, and he got his big deal. And so you still got a couple of quarterbacks out there that could get deals. Before the start of the season, that could drive the quarterback number even further through the roof, which could raise the floor on Dak's deal. The same thing with CeeDee Lamb, the same thing with Trayvon Diggs. Certainly, Trayvon Diggs to me is more acute because this is the last year of his contract.
Right.
He's up at the end of the season. The question is, do you see Trayvon Diggs as a top 3 corner? And
I go back to this. So do you remember a handful of years ago, the Cowboys' former number one draft pick, Byron Jones?
Yes.
Okay, so let's go over that real quick. Byron Jones was the first round pick. He was a really nice player, really bright guy. And after the fifth year, correct? They had exercised that 5th year option on the rookie deal. So he plays a 5th year. And then after that 5th year, decide, you know what? We love you, Byron. We're going to let you go. He signs with the Miami Dolphins, and he did okay. He had some injuries, and the Dolphins released him. If you look back on that deal, the fact that they passed on that contract because he got a lot of money from Miami and a lot of money that was up front, which is the real money. Did the Cowboys do the right thing in not keeping him at a big number?
Yes, because I'm going to pay you for interceptions. If I'm going to give you big money, I'm going to pay you because you're a difference maker.
Okay.
Not just a football player, but a difference. That's what the Cowboys talk about, certainly with Michael Parsons. There's another contract they're going to have to get done in the next couple of years. I'm not paying you top money at your position just because you're good at your position. If I'm going to pay you that type of money, you need to be a difference maker. And we love Byron Jones. He's a former safety, finally moved to corner. He was a good defender. He never got his hands on the ball.
He didn't. No, he was a great athlete. He was a good guy.
And that's what Diggs brings to the table.
But he didn't make visible plays. He was a good player. He was a really, really good player. But he didn't make visible, sexy plays the way Diggs has proven.
I'm not paying you $20 million to not turn the ball over.
Okay.
I need you to get the ball back. And so the thing with Diggs is he turns the ball over, he takes chances, doesn't tackle as he should. Where are we on that? Especially when you got Stephon Gilmore here. Obviously they have a chance to have one of the better cornerback duos, tandems
sure.
they've had in a long time. Maybe going back to the Deion Sanders days with Kevin Smith when they were both outside at cornerback. But to be the cornerback market is $20 million or more.
20 million or more. So a lot of times when it comes about, we start talking about contracts, and it's always we're always whining about it. And not even you and me, just fans in general whine about, don't pay this guy. Well, who are you going to pay? Okay, you got to have somebody. And
you got to pay somebody.
Right. I get emails all the time on Trayvon Diggs. I like Trayvon Diggs a lot for the reasons that you just said. But this is a guy that is not physical in the run game. And if you watch teams, they would go to his side because they knew he would not come up and help. He knows that. There are other guys who've been afflicted by that. Deion Sanders obviously was sort of a case study in it, but that's a different. Deion's his own deal. As a player, as whatever. Is Trayvon Diggs, as a Cowboy, would he eventually hurt himself and his chances of staying here because of what he is, what he isn't rather than what he is.
You know,
I'd keep him. I like him.
The problem is as we found out, with the Byron Jones there, special cornerbacks are hard to come by. They just don't, and he was a second round pick, just like Boss Man Fat was a second round pick, and you ain't getting nothing from Boss Man Fat, Kelvin Joseph right now. So you got a guy that can play, that you can count on, that's a difference maker. You try to keep him, and they want to keep him for sure.
I'd keep him. I don't know. The frustration with Trayvon Diggs drives me crazy because I always look at when you look at a player, like, oh, I hate him. He doesn't do this. He doesn't do this. And look, that play that he didn't make in San Francisco was big. You got to make that play, and he didn't make it. And it's not like he didn't know he didn't make it. That's why you pay him whatever money. That's who he is, to make that play, because he's not going to make the other ones. He's going to make that one. And when you don't make that one, then it really shows. I'd pay him. Hang on. I'd pay him because I think there's a better chance of him making that play than the guy that you don't know. I know it's a ton of money. I know it's a ton of money to give that guy. He's a good pro. He's a good guy. I don't think there's any problem with this guy. I don't think he's his brother. I don't think he's the diva drama queen that.
No, he's not at all.
He's not. I think he's a good guy, and I think he's a good fit for this team. So you have to take all those things into consideration. But the part that drives me crazy is when I hear fans who bag on these guys. And look, sometimes they deserve it. Dak Prescott, for his performance against San Francisco in that playoff game, he deserved it. He would have told you that. He was terrible. But you've got to weigh in, what is he? And if I'm looking at Trayvon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, and I was dead wrong on CeeDee Lamb, I pay these guys not because of what they are, because you don't know what's coming behind him. Like, what do we got behind him? How do we trust? Like you said, they invested a 2 in Boss Man Fat. The guy's been a dud. And he got in trouble off the field, and he was a problem for you. He didn't make plays, and he was a problem for you. That's what drives me crazy about it. So if you had to guess, Clarence, would Dak, CeeDee Lamb, and Trayvon Diggs, will they have extensions before the start of game 1 of the regular season here in the fall?
I think 1 or 2, certainly not all 3.
Which one or 2 would you guess?
They're
Are you just throwing darts at this
point? They're negotiating all at the same time, but I think the goal is to get 1 or 2 done. And certainly they want to get it done before the start of training camp, or during training camp before the start of the season. I think they try to get 1 or 2 done, and they're going to try to be secretive and have, they don't want to talk.
They're not doing anything right now. You and I both know that. They're not doing anything right now.
No, they're not. I said before they can do it in camp.
Okay.
It can happen in camp.
But this idea that they're burning up the phones and negotiating,
no. Let's see what we got. Hey, you like this number? I like that number. Let's go on vacation. We'll come back and talk about it. But we'll see. I mean, they want to keep these guys, and they certainly want to get something done, all 3 done before the next season. But they still have the franchise tag. They could tag Diggs.
One thing we've seen consistently over the years, Clarence, and we haven't heard the Cowboys say it in some time, as the NFL continues to just print money and the salary cap figure keeps going up and up to just, to some stratospheric number that no one could have seen coming 25 years ago. Does salary cap hell even exist anymore? Or is that just an excuse teams use to not sign guys?
I mean, I've always been a cap truther, and it's an arbitrary
cap truther.
It's always been a.
Did you say cap truther?
A cap truther. I mean, come on, it's a mechanism to manage the cap. I mean, the money's going up. You can pay who you want, when you want, how you want. If that means kick the can down the road, do whatever. All this stuff is funny money, okay? And it's how you account for it is what everybody gets caught up with. But if you look at the explosion of the salary cap, and it's going up, and the explosion of money coming into the league, it's only going to get even more with the gambling and all that other stuff coming into the league. I don't want to see it as this, doomsday coming down the road. If I pay Dak, I can't do it. You can do what you want to do.
I agree with you.
This whole notion that, I've never bought into, if you pay your quarterback, you can't win. You either have to get him on a rookie deal, you can't pay other guys. Well, the Chiefs did. If you got the right people, they'll do it. We got the right quarterback.
They paid Tom Brady a lot of money. Didn't the Patriots pay a lot of Tom Brady a lot of money?
The Patriots don't pay anybody.
They just give him the veteran minimum for 20 years.
Tom Brady got paid, but the Patriots don't pay anybody. But it wasn't.
They paid Tom Brady.
It wasn't that. The funny thing about it is that's the ugly truth is that they saved money on Tom Brady so they could pay other guys. They didn't pay nobody.
I was going to say they didn't pay anybody ever.
I mean, it's the same reason that Gilmore left. I mean, they don't pay anybody. No. So it's not like they were saving Tom Brady's money to spread out to the rest of the team. And that's what burns me up about fans who talk about players' money. It's okay for the billionaire owners to continue making money,
no.
But you're mad at the players for trying to maximize.
Never be mad at play. No, I learned my lesson. I'll say that 1,000 times. Like when I was covering the NHL's lockout in 3 and 4, man, they had this very sophisticated, very aggressive, ambitious spin campaign that they worked on members of the media, myself included. I was young and stupid. And I'm like, whoa, yeah, okay. What was the first thing they did right out of they lost the season? This is the NHL. They're 4th in the structure that time. MLS was still coming up. And what's the first thing to do? Like in 8 cities, they raised season ticket prices. And I'm like, to hell with all of you. None of you, all of you guys are printing money. Always side with the player in negotiation because the player has more in common with you as an employee than you do with an owner who's a billionaire and has no concept of what budgets really are like.
And he has a shorter time to make money. I mean, it's
no
his
doubt.
time. He has one window, 2 windows.
Totally
Jerry's been doing this for 30 years. He's making money.
Yep. I'm totally with you. Okay, last thing we'll talk about here on Cowboys Overtime. The NBA draft is Thursday night, and the Dallas Mavericks, easily the most disappointing team in 2022-23, have the 10th overall pick. They tanked to get to that 10th pick, and then they paid a $750,000 fine because they tanked. Who cares who the players are? Nobody has any idea about any of them anymore because their resumes are so short in college, or maybe they played in Ignite, in the G League, or they're coming from overseas. This is not the good old days of the 80s and 90s when people knew who the players were coming into the draft. There are maybe 2 or 3 players, Scoot Miller, Brandon Miller. What's the other one? Scoot Henderson. And Victor Wembanyama, who's going to be the first overall pick with the San Antonio Spurs. Clarence, we don't know. I'm not going to lie to anybody. I've read a few names who might go at number 10. Number 10 is such a guess. The better question to me is, do the Mavericks keep that pick or do they deal it to get somebody else to provide immediate roster help to a franchise that God knows they needed after that fiasco this last season?
Yeah, and I've heard talk about the Mavericks trying to move up as well, and so we're all over the place where the Mavericks might go.
No doubt.
It would be interesting if they would take a guy like Anthony Black, kid from Duncanville, 1 year at Arkansas. I'm looking at a mock draft now. He's going to go 9 to Utah, but he could be available. Finally getting a hometown kid here and see how that would work out. But yeah, I don't know what veteran they could move it for. I know there's been talk about the former Oklahoma guard that's in Indiana. Drafted by the Kings.
Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield's a nice player.
Talk about them,
Buddy Hield's a nice player.
I don't know what that does for this team.
Well, when you look at this team, because the name that keeps coming up that could potentially be available is Phoenix Suns center DeAndre Ayton. Now, the Phoenix Suns fired their coach, Monty Williams, and it was thought that his relationship with Williams was beyond repair. Right. And the Suns obviously have remade themselves dramatically by adding Kevin Durant, and now they dumped Chris Paul and got Bradley Beal. I don't know how that's going to work because there's only one basketball, but that's somebody else's problem. If the Suns, clearly the Mavericks' problem is on the interior. Nobody plays defense. Their rebounding was bad. Their interior defense was atrocious. DeAndre Ayton's a different kind of guy. He was the number 1 pick in the draft class that saw Luka Doncic come to the Mavericks. He's a 7-footer. He's really talented. If he's there, he's really good. Would you trust bringing DeAndre Ayton to this team?
Yeah, I don't think DeAndre Ayton, it just goes back to that draft. He's not who they thought he was. I mean, I watch him. They gave him a max deal. I just don't think he's a special player.
Do you not think he's a special player, or do you don't think he cares? I don't think he cares.
Cares?
Like if you put him in the right team, if you put him with Luka, I mean, God, he was already on a great team with he was with Booker and those guys. I can see why they'd fall for it. Some footers don't. I mean, he's a good player. I just don't know if he cares.
I don't know about a kid. I just don't like him as a player. I mean, he just does nothing for me, especially in crunch time. He just offensively, defensively, he's not special at all. He's just a guy to me.
Is there anything the Mavericks have other than Kyrie, who's not even a Maverick right now? He's a free agent, and obviously Luka Doncic is.
There's nobody anybody else wants.
I was going to say, is there anybody off that team who you want?
No, nobody. There's nobody that the other team wants. Oh, that's going to make me better. You know, it's who the Mavericks.
The only one I can think of. The
Huh?
only one, I mean, Josh Green, all these other guys. The only one I can think of is maybe Bullock, maybe Reggie Bullock, maybe some team would look at him and say, I like what he would do with our roster. But other than that, JaVale McGee.
What are you going to get for him? I mean, you know,
nothing.
You're not getting a top tier difference making player for him.
No, I think the reality of it is the Mavericks making the Western Conference Finals 2 years ago or a season ago, however you want to call it. That may be what they were, and we just didn't see it. That run that they went on. I mean, the guy letting Jalen Brunson go was so dumb, but that team maybe really wasn't that good, and we got
no. I think that was more about the failure of Phoenix and what we thought they were supposed to be.
All right, we've talked forever. I didn't mean to keep you this long. This was fun.
It is all good.
All right, well, stay cool.
What are you doing for vacation? I mean, it's the dog this summer. Are you going on vacation?
Yes.
Where are you going?
I don't know. Where should I go? Where you want to? Hey, you know what? Where do you want to pay for it?
I'm going to send you on a submarine trip.
No, that's the trip my wife wants me to take by myself.
Submarine trip to see the Titanic.
That's right. Go see the Titanic. That's right. All right. For Cowboys Overtime, thank you, Candy Bull. Thank you, Clarence Hill. Thank you, Window Nation. We'll see you next time.